Welcome to Back on the Broomstick,
a modern witch's spoken word grimoire,
where two witchy friends from way back are reconnecting to their pagan roots after a long period of mundanity.
We're rewalking the path of the wise and trying out all the latest spells, rituals, and magical theory in today's witchcraft and pagan practices.
So grab your wand and your incense,
your cauldron and your crystals,
and join us
as we get
back on the broomstick.
Hi, and welcome to Back on the Broomstick. I'm Layla, and this is another episode of The Witch's Answer. We're into the spooky season, the season of the witch, so we figured we would dive into our mail, our email, and our direct messages and grab some of our most asked questions and answer them all for you.
And I'm Chelle, and these are one of my favorite episodes. I love listener questions because, we kind of talk about things that we think are relevant or that we want to touch on. But these are episodes where we can kind of focus on what you want to hear about and what your questions are and some things that you want us to touch on. So grab a cup of tea and cuddle up because we're going to answer your questions.
We have a lot of questions. We also have a bunch of things that Chelle and I have been up to that we'll be talking about. So let's jump right into an email. This email is from Jess, and Jess says that she is in love with the podcast.
Me too.
Yeah, thanks, us too. We appreciate it. And she says that she has stepped outside of the evangelical Christian church not too long ago. I'm so glad that you're here. And she says her husband actually is the one who suggested that she look for a witchy podcast, and that's how she found us.
Thank you, husband.
He is exploring runes and Norse gods and fully in support of her pagan witchy ways. Sounds like my husband. I love a supported Norse guy. And she's got a lot in common with me. She grew up in Southern California. I lived there for a while. And she thinks that Chelle, she feels like you are her witchy auntie, and she wants to have midnight margaritas with both of us.
She's actually spent a lot of time in the Southern tier. Is this like our twin person here?
Jess has a question for her two best witchy aunties. She says she feels called to Hecate because of dreams that she's had, and she wants to know what the best starting place is to explore that connection.
Take a deep breath and strap in.
Yeah, that's definitely, from Chelle's perspective, absolutely a good answer.
Okay. I would say for me, I would set up a little altar to Hecate, and I would start doing either some sort of little nightly ritual or a weekly ritual, whatever works with your schedule. Hell, if it has to be bi-weekly or monthly, do what you can. But I would start taking some time to just kind of, in a magical space, start building that connection, start feeling her out. In the mundane sense, learn all you can. Books, dare I say, read what you can online, but remember.
So Rita D'Este, Courtney Weber. We'll put some different links in for books that we appreciate. Cindy Brannon, a lot of people appreciate Cindy Brannon and her Hecate books. So we'll put a lot of information there for you. And I also want to touch a little bit on the dream portion of this, because dreams are one of those liminal spaces where your subconscious is basically set free. And so if there's an association with a deity, dreams are very often one of the very first places that deity will attempt to say, hey.
That first connection.
Yeah, because somewhere in your brain you've made this connection, or you're interested, or they're interested in you. And so the liminal space of dreams is an easy place to make that connection. And I'm going to add on to something that Chelle said, where you mentioned the nightly ritual. Chelle, make an altar to Hecate and do a nightly ritual.
Give some offerings.
Yeah, I'm going to add to that, and I'm going to say do it before bed. Make it into a pre-sleep ritual and intentionally ask Hecate for clearer communication. Maybe you have the same type of ritual every night where you pour a little bit of water to Hecate, or you light an herb, or, hey, Chelle or I would light a pre-sleep joint maybe and offer that smoke to Hecate. Whatever you're doing before bed, ritualize it and ask Hecate for more information. And what that will do for you magically is plant that suggestion so your sleeping brain can work more with Hecate, get more information from her. And also, hypnotically, for your subconscious, that's an excellent way to kind of wake up that sleeping brain and get that information into your subconscious, into your magical brain. You can then start to work on it. And yes, I am also going to say journal your dreams. Have that journal right there
With
immediately.
this is the one time I will agree with you. Dream journaling is the one time, well, other than my tarot journaling, but because dreams are something you can easily, once you're awake for 2 hours, you don't remember. So you need to journal that right when you wake up because you will, for some reason I can't understand, forget that as time goes on.
The subconscious doesn't form those long-term memories as easily. So they're going to slip very, very quickly unless you record them in some way. So yeah, definitely do your pre-sleep rituals and journal that. Journal the information, journal the synchronicities you see in your life, and definitely in your grimoire, your book of shadows, write the information down that you're learning from the book.
And as far as, I said, if you have the space, create an altar. You might be thinking, well, what would I put on that other than the traditional, hey, go get yourself a Hecate statue, which, by the way, they are so gorgeous. But back in the day when I didn't have such things, I just had a key. That could be any old key. It could be an old key, a new key, a key you found somewhere, the key to your front door.
It could be an equal armed X, like a crossroads.
Crossroads.
It
Yep.
could be a dog statue. It could be a dog collar. It could be a stalk of mullein. It could be a torch. All of these things represent Hecate. So you can anything that you feel called to.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to go out and buy, a Hecate statue for your altar to be dedicated to Hecate, I guess is my point. Again, gorgeous. I love them, but they're not necessary. You can just have a little key. And what I used to do, and this is so cute. I probably shouldn't tell people this, but I had this little key and it was a skeleton key. And you know how like in the skeleton key at the top, they have those little round areas?
Hmm.
I would put tiny little buds in there as offerings, especially because, you don't want to give up. Weed is a precious commodity, so I wasn't like leaving ounces there, but a little tiny little bud in the little two holes, and that was my little offering to Hecate.
Especially with Hecate, the torch. She is the torch bearer. So candles, torches, mullein torches are fun to make. Or, if you got a joint, roll a little bit of mullein and mugwort in there. And I think that is a perfect Hecate torch.
But see, I can't because if I rolled the mugwort in there, I wouldn't breathe for the next 4 months.
So for you, it's just the mullein. I do know that the mullein stalks, they burn like a torch. You can make a big candle out of them. And sometimes they're called Hecate's torches. So mullein you can use as an herb for Hecate as well.
But I do want to point out, maybe you don't have access to these sorts of things, no matter what deity it is, whether it's Hecate, any other deity, it doesn't matter. You can give an offer if it is something that has some sort of value, for lack of a better word, to you. It is something worth giving as an offering. Maybe honey isn't something traditionally offered to Hecate, but if honey is sacred to me, then I can offer it as an offering to Hecate because I find it sacred. So there's no right or wrong thing to use as an offering. There are associated things, but nothing wrong.
Make an altar, add some offerings to Hecate, and definitely invite information in your sleep and make sure to journal that later. So I hope that helps out, Jess.
Saddle up for this roller coaster.
All right, what's next?
So I have something from our Instagram. So let me just bring this up. This is from, and this is, we're leading and still down the Hecate path a little bit. This is from Lady Heart Fox. Hi, Lady Heart Fox.
Hey.
So she writes, and she's so cute. She was like, she thinks we're beautiful people and loves our podcast. We love you
Aw.
too. She's only ever worked with Egyptian gods and goddesses outside some group rituals, which I get,
Hmm.
some people are really kind of honed into one specific pantheon. But the other day, she was going to the store and she felt pulled upon to call to Hecate. Normally, she works with Bast.
As someone who is very eclectic, if you are feeling drawn to a particular deity or to a particular energy, there's absolutely nothing wrong with learning every single thing that you want to about that deity and working with that energy. Unless you're in some type of oath-bound situation where you are not allowed to, which I think is kind of silly. Knowledge is everything. But yeah, you should go ahead and learn all you want. I don't see any possible problem with that at all.
It's not like you're being a traitor to your sacred Egyptian gods and
Yeah.
goddesses by pursuing different deity.
And I do, I mean, I don't see Bass and Hecate as being similar. I mean, they have some qualities I feel that are similar. I do feel that they are both very protective.
I think that, like you said, knowledge is power. Knowledge is a good thing. Every day is a school day. But I feel that the more eclectic we got as our spirituality grew together over these last
Mhm.
gazillion years, it expanded our spirituality by expanding our knowledge.
Yeah.
The more you know, the more you grow.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I do feel that if you're working with a deity and then all of a sudden you feel drawn or called to another deity and you're feeling a kind of way about that, happy, sad, guilty, whatever, you should, meditate on that, journal that, think about that for a little bit. There's probably a reason. Maybe you're feeling like you haven't fully explored your relationship with the previous deity. Maybe you're feeling left out. Maybe there's something unexplored there. There's a reason why you're feeling guilty about it. But I seriously doubt that the deities themselves really care.
Well, and I kind of look at it also as, so she said that she's very attuned with Bast. Well, maybe there's some lessons that she needs to learn from Hecate that embody qualities and traits that Bast doesn't have. You know what I'm saying?
That's an excellent point. I really love that, Shell. That's a very excellent point. Don't get too locked into to one particular deity because that's such a good point. There's so many other lessons to learn.
Right.
Maybe you need to move away from that sensuality, that joy that Bast expresses, and touch on more of your dark side, more of the unseen, that divination, the witchy side of you.
Because Hecate, for example, that like you were saying about that sensual passion side of Bast. But maybe you need to balance that at the crossroads because there's
Exactly.
choices to make sometimes.
Right.
And you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah,
embrace that expansion is how I look at it. Again, knowledge is a good thing. And I think that it
exactly.
can expand lessons and your experience with your spirituality.
I do remember there was a long period of time when we were training and learning where one of the things that we did would be to grab that book of 10,000 goddesses that doesn't really exist. And we would work with a deity. We'd usually choose a god and a goddess, and we would work with them for a year and a day. Your traditional Gardnerian Wiccan year and a day. I like the symbology of a year and a day type of training, but it was a really good way to work with and get information about a whole bunch of different pantheons, cultures. We learned so much doing that. You kept going back to Hecate, which was fine. You still had a lot of experience
But I didn't
working with.
But if you remember, and this is so bizarre, and the funny thing is I still feel that relationship on occasion. But I spent my year in a day with Pele.
Well, she was one of many. I mean, we didn't just do it the once, we did it a few times. Yes.
Yeah, but the Pele one sticks out to me
Yeah.
because at that period in my life, as you know, I had some explosions going on,
Yeah.
and it was almost like Pele picked me out of that book. I didn't pick her. But exactly like you said, no matter what I do, I always go back to Hecate. But I've expanded enough with deity knowledge that if I need love and compassion and that curl you up and wrap you up in hugs and kisses, I might not necessarily, Hecate might be a little too prickly. I
Right.
might call on someone like Aphrodite. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah, and by having had those prior experiences, those prior rituals and
right.
working with and meditations to and offerings to other deities, working with a year and a day or more or less, you have those other relationships to call on.
Right, right. So it's almost like you know which auntie to call when you need. You know what I mean?
Exactly, exactly. And you've talked to that auntie before you need her help.
Right, right,
So
right.
yeah, yeah. Okay.
You
So all
hear
right.
me.
I gotcha. All right. So next question. What do we
Next
got?
question.
We've got this is from Sue. Sue says she loves our podcast. Thank you, Sue.
Thanks, Sue.
Sue lives in the Buffalo area of New York and is looking for community like Crystal City Circle.
When I think of Buffalo, all I think is like 50 feet of snow.
I know, right? So, Sue was actually hoping to come to Crystal City Circle events, but they do live kind of far away. and is asking if there are similar communities in Buffalo or Rochester. And she says she's torn because she loves listening to the podcast with you and I and thinks it would be a blessing to learn and participate with us. That being said, yes, there are several different groups in the Buffalo and the Rochester area. The Celtic Pagans of Rochester is available. They are actually having a Samhain meetup at Mythic Treasures, which is one of the metaphysical shops in the Rochester area. And Mythic Treasures is also an excellent place to find local groups, classes, workshops, things that are going on in the area. There's also the Corellian Church in Buffalo, and there are several other groups. I will make sure to put that information here and in the show notes. You can also go to Mandragora Magica, and they do have some of them listed there as well. There is Circle of the Green in Rochester. Also upcoming is the Western New York Pagan Pride Day in Buffalo, which will be Wednesday, October 12th from 12 till 8 p.m. Not only will you find vendors at Pagan Pride, there's also workshops and meetups. And very often there's a community table section, which Crystal City Circle and Back on the Broomstick was part of for the Central New York Pagan Pride Day just recently. But that's where you'll be able to find all the different groups and communities that are in your area and looking for new members. It's a wonderful place for finding like-minded people. I also want to take a second to talk about Crystal City Circle because that has been going for a couple months now, and we are
I'm
getting
so jealous. I'm not gonna lie.
this is an amazing group of witches, heathens, magical people. I am over the moon, just so happy with all of
And
it.
I just want to point out because I know they're listening. So I met a bunch of the Crystal City Circle folks at Central New York Pagan Pride Day. And, Layla and I do everything together. And these folks just acted like I was a part of the group with all the loves and hugs. They would, you wouldn't have thought that I wasn't a part of the group. So I love you guys, and I'm not going away. I'm just far away.
You are a long distance member of Crystal City Circle,
I
absolutely.
am.
Crystal City Circle is a pagan community that my new bestie Shannon and I have started in Corning, New York, the southern tier of New York. We do have people that drive more than an hour, and I am hoping to direct people in more closer ways to them. Shell and I made a lot of different connections at the Central New York Pagan Pride with the northern tier pagans, Central New York pagans, western tier pagans. So we're going to try to create a very large network so that we can get people into groups that are close to them. Obviously, I would love it if you came to Crystal City Circle, but we want people to find stuff closer to home so they don't have to be on the road so far.
Gas ain't cheap, man.
All right, seriously. But hey, stop in. If you want to just stop into one of our workshops or to one of our rituals, all of that information is online. So if you're in the area, check us out. And hey, Crystal City Circle people.
Hey guys, miss you. But I do want to just also point out real quick that, maybe you're not in New York State and you are looking for someone local to you and, maybe Mandragora Magic isn't happening for you. You're not finding stuff. If you have a local metaphysical shop, stop down there and ask. They can direct you to groups. Or, get on Reddit, put your little question into Reddit, check and see if there's a Facebook group for your area, because there's more of us out there than I think you realize. But just like with every group of every flavor, sometimes groups are hard to find and you just got to do a little digging. But check out some things locally, no matter where you're at, and hopefully you can find a group.
The other good place to check is if you have a Unitarian Universalist church in your area. They may have a CUPS, a Covenant of Unitarian Universalist Pagans chapter, or like Crystal City Circle, there may be a pagan community affiliated with the local UU. Crystal City Circle works with the Big Flats UU in our area for rituals. Thanks, guys. So yeah, that's another good place to check. Hopefully, Sue, you can find an excellent community that is witchy and wonderful and suits you perfectly. What's our next question, Shell?
Okay, so this one comes from we'll just call her Denise because I don't want to be putting all her last name up on the old airwaves. Denise asks, she was listening to the spirit energy episode relatively recently, and it sparked her to ask us the question. Oh, there's a good one, Layla. What creation story do we lean towards?
Ooh, mine's really good. I really like mine.
So why don't you start?
Oh, you want me to start? Okay.
Yeah.
Evolution. I I do believe in evolution. I do feel that, all right, I'm a little weird, and I've talked about this before, and I know chaos people are going to jump down my throat because they do every time I say this.
At least you admit it.
I do. I believe in the magic of chaos. I believe that sheer chance, randomness, random chaos started the Big Bang. I think that is magic. I think that's powerful. I think that's deity.
Yeah,
And again,
and I totally agree with you.
when I talk about chaos or the magic of chaos, I'm not talking about Austin Osman Spare's chaos magic, where you just use the first thing that works and you change it every single time. I know that's simplistic. I'm talking about the random chaos that made the spark of DNA in the soup of the oceans create life, create
Right.
us, make the perfect everything here. That's that chaos. So that doesn't really have a creation story. Um, so yeah, I believe in science, I believe in evolution, but I believe that that chaos is powerful magic.
And I as well believe that it's that exact chaos that kind of, like you said, created that spark of life, kind of that spark of all that is.
Yeah, and it's really wild to me. I love different creation myths because a lot of them, when you kind of break them down like your crappy English teacher in sixth grade made you do, and right, when you start breaking down these creation myths, a lot of them sound an awful lot like, sciency, like that spark of creation, that spark of magic. So I don't know, maybe there's some truth there.
Well, I definitely think that it's something that can be different between different cultures and traditions, but I do have to agree with you on the science thing. Layla, what do you got next?
You're gonna love this one, Shell. You're gonna love this.
Okay, what's up?
This is from Rachel.
Hi, Rachel.
Hi, Rachel. Rachel's our little sister.
Okay.
Rachel is turning 50 next year
I
on,
feel that.
on October 27th.
Ooh, ooh.
Right, right.
Ooh.
Happy early 49th, little sister Rachel.
Happy 49th, Rachel.
Rachel's question. She says in a little over a year, she'll be 50, and she wants to go to Salem, Massachusetts for her birthday. Of course, what
Everybody
amazing
does.
50-year-old witch would not? I mean,
Right?
seriously. She knows because she's a smart witch, our little sister. She knows that October is crazy month in
Can I
Canada.
just say it's a shit show? Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah, absolutely. She knows.
No
She
personal
knows.
space. No personal space.
She's a smart witch. She's got this. So, she doesn't love super big crowds. So,
Ooh.
we've got some tips for you there.
Ooh.
But her questions are her husband's having anxiety because he wants to plan the perfect trip. Love that.
I love him. I
Our
don't
little
even know him, and I
brother-in-law,
love him.
right? He's our little witchy brother-in-law. I love that. We're going to help you out. She wants to know, what part of town should she try and stay in? Book now, sweetheart. Two,
Like, I ain't even joking, book now.
where should she stay? Main places she should go? Any underground events or places? Best witchcraft shop to go to? Best places to eat? And the last one is, are there any public rituals that she will be able to attend?
Okay, I got answers for you.
What we're going to tell you, Rachel, is we must have psychically known you were going to ask us this question because I was in Salem not too long ago, and Shell and I took video of us in a lot of our favorite places. So we're going to try and put out an episode just for you, well, and everyone else too, on all of our favorite Salem places. So here's our itinerary. First question, what part of town should you try and stay in? There are two different things that we recommend here. You can stay in historic, really close to downtown, but it's small and kind of haunted. Or you can stay a little bit further out of town, pay a little bit less money, and still stay someplace nice. So what do you recommend, Shell? You're the local.
Okay. First of all, if your husband does not want you disappointed, you better book that hotel room in the next 2 months or you ain't getting nothing.
Yeah, year ahead of time.
A
Highly
year ahead of
recommend.
time. Now, there isn't really that many hotels in Salem because it's really a small town, believe it or not. So if you can book in Salem, obviously that's what your first choice is going to be. Do it. I recommend the Hawthorne. Love it. Super haunted.
Small.
Yeah, it is small. There's the Salem waterfront. Check that out too. It is on the water, but less haunted. If you cannot get a place in Salem, my first recommendation would be for you to check out Peabody, Danvers, or Beverly. If you can get in Peabody, Danvers, or Beverly, you are either a short car, train, or Uber ride away.
Exactly. And that might be better for you if crowds are not your thing. This
Right.
will give you a way to get out of
Get
the
away.
area. Yeah. And plus, there's a lot of choices, a wide variety of budget choices as soon as you get outside of Salem.
Right, right. What was the next part of that? Main
Okay.
places we
Next,
should go.
what are the main places? And I highly recommend when you go, check out the historical sites. Check out all the historical sites. And I'm going to give you a quick itinerary, and Shell, the local, will interject.
Yep.
So I'm going to say, check out the Peabody Essex Museum if you want. You can also go to the Gallows Hill Museum slash theater.
I do like, obviously, Peabody Essex Museum is fabulous. I do like the Gallows Hill Theater. They have a haunted house down there, and it's actually kind of cool. And you're going to scream a little more than you think. Me personally, I'm not a fan of the Witch Museum, and we're just going to leave it at that. I think it was decorated the year I was born, and let's just say that was a minute ago,
So that's one you can definitely skip if you want to.
in my opinion. Yes.
Yes. All right. So now the ones we really recommend are the Witch House at 310 Essex Street. This
Yes.
is one of the original houses. Granted, it's not in the original spot, but it is the original house. Very interesting. Has lots of artifacts. A little trippy to look out the windows. I love it.
I remember when we looked out the windows, you had made this comment. It is interesting to look out the same pane glass that someone looked out 300 years ago.
Right. Pretty trippy. We also recommend the old Burying Point Cemetery on Charter Street,
Yep.
the Salem Witch Trials Memorial on Liberty Street,
Yep.
Proctor's Ledge Memorial.
Absolutely.
Now, granted, this is a little weird to get to and park at.
Just a little bit.
This is a memorial that was put in way after everything was built in town, and it's basically historians looked and found where they believe the actual location of the hangings took place. So everyone except for, say, Giles Corey, who was pressed to death, was killed in this area. And there is a very beautiful, very moving memorial right where the hangings took place.
Yep.
Definitely go there. Hard to get to. Go there anyway.
There's one more place that I would recommend that you did not mention, and this is probably one of my all-time favorite places in Salem is the House of Seven Gables.
Oh, yeah, I was going to mention that later.
Oh, okay.
There's a line. There is the yellow line that you can walk, and that goes to a lot of historic locations. We did not mention all of them. There are a ton.
There's tons.
These are just our favorites. Now, shopping. Name a couple of your favorite shops.
Oh boy, I love pretty things.
I have a list right here if it helps. I'm going to read the list
Why
and
don't
you
you
tell me
read
what
the
you like.
list? And if you forget anything that I absolutely love, I will interject
Okay.
it.
I'm cheating because I have our itinerary here from when we did our trip. All right. So the first one I'm going to mention is, of course, Hive and Forge on 30 Church Street, Salem. That is my absolute favorite. Local artists, local crafts, beautiful, beautiful witchy shit. Oh my gosh, I love that
You just
store.
love stores that sell bones.
I do. That's true. I do. It's a fantastic place. I'm also going to mention Pentagram Witchcraft and Magic Shop. Wonderful, fabulous place to get things. Also a great place for tarot readings.
My best recommended place.
It is recommended over and over again. I'm also going to mention the Cauldron Black on 65 Wharf Street. Now, this was mentioned by a listener as one of their favorite places to shop
It
in Salem.
was. That's also a good shop.
Excellent place for jewelry, the Village Silversmith. We've also got the Coven's Cottage. Some people really very much like that shop. One of my favorites to go into is the Black Cat Curiosity Shop. Love their teas. They're super cute.
I love their tea. I really do.
Now, there are two locations for this next shop. One is a little further out of town, and boy, is it fantastic. And this is run by twins who are also witchy tattoo artists. This is the Black Veil Shop of Drear and Wonder.
Their stores are just cool to look at. Very
Mhm.
Addams Family.
It's so cool. Also, slightly outside of town, but excellent, excellent jewelry. Ravenstone. Love these
Whoa.
guys. You gotta go.
This is like your crystal mecca. If you
Yeah.
are into gemstones and crystals, you need to take the drive outside of Salem, go to Ravenstone.
Tell them Layla and Chelle from Back on the Broomstick sent you.
Exactly.
We also recommend Old School Pyramid Bookstore, gotta love them, The Sea Witch, and Crowhaven Corner, which is the oldest witch shop in Salem.
Okay. So
We've got underground events or places. So some of the other places that are not on the historic tour or the shopping tour, Shell and I love, and honestly, I think is one of the more haunted places, the House of Seven Gables.
probably the one place in Salem that I can't get enough of. I mean, I've been to the witch house. I almost have every nook and cranny memorized, but I feel like every time I go to the House of Seven Gables, I don't know, there's some weird about and trippy about that house. I feel like
Take a
it's
tour.
different. It's different.
Take a tour. The tour guides have amazing information. They have lots of great things to say. Super cool place. And even if you don't go on a tour and inside the museum, wander around the grounds, the gardens, the old houses that they moved there. You will see around Salem houses that are painted like a dark gray.
Yeah. I look at them as more like black.
They do look black. It's a preservation paint basically.
I think honestly that is kind of how they kept things back in the day. Though a lot of those houses were like that dark wood that were painted dark to
Yeah.
repel. It's some sort of repellent, some weather repellent.
Yeah, the black houses are all old historic houses, and you'll see a
Yeah.
lot of them with dates and plaques on them. But if you see a dark gray, black looking house, they've been painted that way specifically to help preserve them. But they're very easy and distinct to see.
I did want to mention real quick that there is a second color you will find in that same vein, and it's almost like a burnt red. So if you
Ooh.
see like a burnt red house or a black house,
All right. Another underground place that is our absolute freaking favorite is the Salem Witchboard Museum.
oh my God, I love this place. And the thing about this is, even if you've been to Salem before and you've been there, you have to go back because what did he tell us? Every 3 months, every 4 months?
Yeah, he changes it.
He totally redoes everything. He has such a stockpile of boards that he changes out the display every 3 months. So if you go today and then you go 4 or 5 months from now, you're going to see totally different boards.
We also think that you should go to the Satanic Temple on 64 Bridge Street and Hocus Pocus locations.
Everybody goes to Hocus Pocus locations.
Yeah, the easiest one is the Ropes Mansion, which is Allison's house. They have a gorgeous garden that you can walk around. They decorate for
It
Halloween.
really is gorgeous.
Oh,
Yeah.
take pictures outside of that. It's great. You can also go to Max and Danny's house, 98 West Ave in Salem, right on the water. It's beautiful.
Just be respective because, like, people
Yeah.
actually live there. Don't be a jerk.
Yes, please be very respectful of these places. Same thing with the Ropes Mansion. People do live there, but they're really nice with their time. So, there's also a couple other locations that you can look up for Hocus Pocus locations. You can go to Count Orlok's Nightmare Gallery, the Bewitched Samantha statue, which is a controversial, fun place to go. Which side do you land on? Love it? Hate it? In the middle? What do you think of Samantha?
Okay, so funny you asked this because I actually have an opinion here. I loved Bewitched as a TV show. Growing up on reruns,
Yep,
I loved that
me
show.
too.
Go figure. The statue is gorgeous, do not get me wrong. But she was not from Salem. Okay, yeah, one episode, 2 episodes were filmed here, but it wasn't about Salem. It wasn't filmed here. Like, there is no association with Bewitched in Salem other than she was a witch and this is Witch City. So I don't understand it, but I like it.
In my understanding, the way I understand it, I think that witches, like modern day witches, have nothing to do with Salem either. I mean, it was Christians that
Oh,
were
I
persecuted.
agree. Don't get me wrong.
Right, no, right, no, no, I know you do. I know. I'm just saying that this is how I understand it, is that witches don't really have an association. None of the people that were killed there were witches. They were persecuted kind of in our name. So that's how I see we reclaim the city in that. And we're
Right.
reclaiming that in.
Okay.
So I think
Okay.
the same thing about Bewitched. Samantha, I loved that show. I still kind of love that show.
They should put that back on TV.
Right? Seriously. I'd love to see a reboot of it.
That and I Dream a Genie.
But the thing is, she doesn't have a connection to Salem, but she does with Witchcraft Revival. She was the very first public on TV witch, and she was
Yeah.
accepted, and she was a witch, and people loved her and they loved that character. And so I think, in the sense of reclaiming that, she's the
Okay,
very
I get
first
it.
out public witch.
Now that you put it that way, I get it.
Yeah, so that's kind of how I see it. I completely understand that there's a lot of different viewpoints on it, but I think it's kind of cool.
I get what you're saying, but if it were me, I would put a statue of Lori Cabot on the corner of Essex Street.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So I think food is another one. We got to do this one quick because these are a lot of questions. Some of the best places that you can eat. You got to get candy after you leave the House of Seven Gables. Go to the oldest candy shop right across the street. Get
Oh my
yourself some
God.
dark chocolate sea salt caramel.
I
Oh,
spend way too much money at the Ye Old Peppermint Company.
right? So good. Where else would you recommend, Shell?
If you're looking for a good seafood dish, Turner's 110%. If you like lobster bisque, oh my God, I cannot recommend that more from Turner's. If you're looking for pizza, go to Amazing. It's not a pun, it's amazing. It is really the best pizza on the planet. That's no joke. Sushi, go to Kodo. If you're looking for Mexican, Howling Wolf, the best burritos on the planet.
All right. So I'm going to cut you off there because we're going to
Lilith.
have another episode where we talk
Yep,
about a lot
yep,
of
yep.
these.
I do want to answer the last question because this is something we didn't talk about in our video, and this is something people who come to Salem do often wonder. And Rachel's last question was she wanted to know if there was a coven or public ritual that she could connect with and attend some sort of ritual while she's here. Now, I know you would think that there would be a lot of opportunity. There's really not. If you go on the old googly Google or on the old Facebook and look up the what is it? Lori Cabot's, the Cabot Cat Hermetic Temple or the Witch's Ball, you will find that there are one or two public events. I'm not sure, I don't know if there's a cost. I don't know the details. You're going to have to look that up. But I do know that Lori Cabot's group does do a public thing. But otherwise, there's not a whole lot of public ritual going on here. Just so that expectation is kind of so you know where you stand.
Next question.
Okay. I've got one more Instagram question that I wanted to mention. And this is gonna it might be a little leading into another topic, but we have a podcast listener called Raining Light is how she goes on the old Insta. So Raining Light asks, she loves our podcast. She just recently found it, so she hasn't gotten through all of our episodes, but she wanted to ask us a question. She was listening to our episode. I don't even remember what one it was. I think it was in the 40s or something about dismantling, destroying, canceling, getting rid of a spell jar.
Ooh, okay.
She had made a spell jar for a
Hmm.
person, and she's to a point now where she thinks that it's time to dismantle it, but she's anxious. She wants to do it carefully. She wants to do it right. She doesn't want any backlash for dismantling it. And she's not wanted to touch it or do anything with it, but she feels the need to do it, but do it in a very careful manner. So she's asking if we have any tips on how to properly dismantle, disassemble, or kind of break off a spell jar.
Ooh, excellent question. All right. So, first thing I have to ask is what is your intent with dismantling the spell jar? Are you dismantling it because you're ready for this person to come back into your life? Are you dismantling it because it has done its job and you are ready to just have it continue the way that it is? Why? Why are you dismantling it? And that's going to dictate to me how you dismantle it and how you dispose of the things.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Why did you put it together in the first place? What's transpired since? And why are you taking it apart at this point? Those are all things to consider.
I think the two most common reasons someone wants to dismantle a spell jar is one, they want to dismantle it because whatever problem was being caused has passed, the work is
The
done,
work is done.
and they're okay with the relationship kind of coming back maybe slowly into their life. Dismantling the jar is a good way to do that. Have you ever bought crystals, Shell, or something from a
Way too
shop?
many.
You know those little clear bags a lot of people will give you for jewelry or for crystals or things like that. There's just those little cute bags. Sometimes they're different colors, a little drawstring bag.
They're like little net bag things.
That's right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I like to save those because they're pretty and I can do spell jars in
I literally
bags,
have a handful of them right
right?
here.
They also work very well as a mental trigger for a circle, for a protective magical space. So, what I suggest, take the spell jar, set up my ritual, set up my spell with the intention that I'm going to dismantle this because the work is done and I'm ready for things to just return to an equilibrium. put the jar in that bag as a circle. And in my mind, that now creates a magical barrier that contains all the energy in that jar. So when I crack the seal and open the jar, it's not going to go anywhere. It's contained in that bag. So my intention then is I separate out every single piece, dumping it inside the bag, and with the intention, cleanse each of those pieces still inside the bag, thank them for their energy and their aid in this working, tell them that the working is done, and then just sit with that until the energy dissipates inside that bag. And then I would dispose of each piece as needed, either put it back on an altar, bury it to then dig up later, to get rid of that energy and earth that energy and then dig it up and bring it back. Maybe run it under running water and then put it someplace to store and use again, or throw it away if I'm done with it.
Now, just a couple things that I want to add to that because I have a similar method. I like getting the big containers of chocolate covered raisins at BJ's. So I have kept one of those big plastic containers and I've filled it with dirt. And what I like to do is I like to kind of bury that spell jar in dirt. But who's going to do that in your backyard? You might not find it again. So it is a container. And I'll bury it for a period. It might be moon to moon, or from a full moon to a dark moon, or a dark moon to a full moon, depending on the intent. And then I will, like you said, get it out, start dismantling it. I do like to, if it's just herbs, because it depends on what I made it for. If it's just herbs, I like to give the herbs back to the earth. But otherwise, I dispose of the contents appropriately. I like to reuse. Who doesn't like to reuse little glass jars? So I will come up with an incense. I will either buy it or I will make it, whatever. And then I will use incense to cleanse my container because I do generally want to reuse them for other purposes later on. So I did want to interject, if you are going to reuse the container, to definitely kind of, even though I've buried it and kind of released it, I still want to at the end cleanse that container again so that I can reuse it for a different purpose.
The only other thing I would do differently is if this is a spell where I'm done, like the spell has done its work and it's gotten them out of my life or whatever, but now I'm done, I'll just throw it away.
Yeah.
Dispose of it, get it out of your life, get it away from you. The act of throwing it away shows your feelings for that. It's garbage. It's done. If it's that type of thing, if it's a get away from me or a freezer type spell, just throw it
Right.
away. Again, you have to kind of determine why you're opening the spell or ending it.
We do hope that that helps, but that segues into something that you were talking about. So, Layla, funny thing, I heard a rumor that you happen to get someone else's spell jars. How
I
do you
did.
come across getting other people's spell jars, by the way?
I've recently discovered the joys of local online auctions. It's
Oh, that's my
terrible.
jam. I
It's
love that.
bad.
That's my jam.
Not too long ago, I stumbled upon an auction that was just one town over that happened to be full of witch shit.
What are the odds?
Right? I started looking, I'm like, hey, that's a book about tarot. And it's bundled with a whole bunch of crystals, like a lot of crystals. Then I noticed there was a good 6 or 7 lots that were all witchy bundles. There was tarot cards and crystals, there were some books and crystals, there
Oh
were
my.
yeah,
Oh my.
there was jewelry. This person had gotten aura paintings done of themselves.
Ooh. You are like tweaking my thrift, like every thrift fiber of my being right now.
As soon as I realized what it was, I tried to win every single lot. Unfortunately, I was outbid on a couple of them, but
I
I
just
got
love
what.
that in and of itself that you actually were bid against.
Yeah, hopefully whoever got them was also very respectful and very appreciative of what they got. But when I got them home, I spent them time with everything. I cleansed it. I treated it very respectfully, and I worked with it for a while. I sat with each piece to learn its energy. There were 4 spell jars.
That one kind of eked me out, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, well, you kind of get a feeling for the energy. And I showed them to you, and you picked up on the same exact feelings
Right,
I did with
right.
each jar. So
But at
it's
first glance, I'd be like, oh shit, I got somebody's spell jars. What's this about?
yeah, yeah, it felt like a big, heavy responsibility. It still does. I have put them on my ancestor altar. They are in a box. They are in a container on my ancestor altar at the moment. And I know what I plan on doing with them, but I kind of wanted to put the question out to our listeners. If you guys could email us, DM us, write it in your letter, but what would you do if you somehow inherited or came into possession of someone else's spell jars?
And I think it's interesting. If I gave you a box of stuff and you were like, "Oh wow, Shell gave me a bunch of spell jars," that would be different. But Layla, you got some stranger's spell jars.
Yeah,
Like
and
that's a stranger's spell jar. It's not like I gave you used spell jars and you're like, "All right, let me just dismantle these." Like it's a stranger. There's like a deeper level to it.
yeah, and if it was just sitting there, I would never have grabbed it because that's not my shit. That's someone else's spell. Not touching it. Thanks.
Right, 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 right.
But because they came into my possession, I feel like, and I did not see them, these were not listed in the lot. This was just kind of part of the lot. So I feel like they came to me for a reason. I also feel like, even though I do get a very strong sense of what each spell jar is for, I don't feel like I should open them. In my particular case, I feel like this person has passed on.
It's not yours to dismantle, is how I feel.
I do not know exactly what workings this person put into effect. So I plan on and spelling these, I'm wrapping them in energy, not negating it. I'm being respectful, but I'm wrapping them in energy, and I do plan on keeping them on an ancestor altar as that type of item. So they won't any longer be putting energy out anywhere. They'll just kind of be in
They'll just
stasis.
be.
Yeah, they'll
They'll
just be
just
in
be.
stasis. Yeah.
Yeah. I like that. That's very respectful.
Yeah, and I will keep them as a memento on my ancestor altar. Even though I do not know who this woman was, I do feel a connection to her. And so I want to honor her in that way. But I would love to hear what other people would do if they came upon or inherited in some way some spell jars. So let us know.
Let us know. Oh, that's just that. There's just, it makes me want to like find out whose they were and research the person. I'm so nosy.
All right, next question is this one's short, but it's got a little bit of a longer answer. This is from Maggie, and Maggie says, have you ever talked about working with a fetch? And we have not.
Okay, Layla, I don't mean to sound silly. I do not know what a fetch is, so you are going to have to educate both of us. Or maybe I know what it is and don't know what that it's called that.
You've probably heard of it in a couple different ways. So, fetches are heard most often in fairy tradition or British traditional witchcraft. And this is the idea that every person has a shadow self, that you have a
Like
double.
Peter Pan?
Kind of, yes, like Peter Pan's shadow could be considered his fetch.
Okay.
Yes, that's a good example.
Okay, I
Yeah.
got you now.
It's part of your soul, it's part of who you are. It is you, but it's also like a double of you or a shadow you, possibly. It could be a spirit self. In some lore, it's like a guardian spirit that it kind of watches over you. Sometimes it can be a witch's bridge between this world and another. You would send your fetch to the spirit world to get information, your shadow self. You, but in shadow form. You have a relationship with your fetch and you can talk to your fetch and have them do things. But again, it's you, it's a part of you. Fetches are similar to, say, a tulpa or a familiar or an egregore.
Okay, I know what it is. I just know it by a different name
They're not
now.
the same thing, but they are in the same kind of energy form category, I guess.
Okay, okay.
Differently, like a familiar. Say, let's talk about like a familiar. We've talked about that before. A lot of us
Right,
like to talk about our pets as familiars, which
right,
they're a simple familiar, yes.
right.
But a
But they're not always
familiar,
pets.
right, right. A familiar, a true familiar is a spirit that you have bound to you. It's a partner that you have
Right.
bound to you. It's a spirit and energy of some sort.
I just never heard of it called a fetch before.
That's different. A fetch is you. A familiar is an external spirit that you have kind of called and or bound or contracted with
Okay,
to
okay,
work
I
with
see
you.
what you're saying.
Your fetch is you, your shadow self, a part of you. Like, well, like you said, like Peter Pan's shadow. That's him, part of him. So like a tulpa is also similar. A tulpa is more of a thought form. It's a spiritual power, something that you create, kind of like an egregore. You've got an egregore that's an entity that a group of people's ideas and thoughts have created, right? And it becomes its own thing. Like we've talked before about working with the egregore of the United States, working with Lady Liberty or working with Lady Americana or some other type of egregore thought form that you create. Sometimes pop culture icons can become egregores, deities that have this energy because so many people think of them in that way. But again, slightly different than a fetch. A fetch is
Right.
you.
A part of yourself, like your
Yeah.
darker side, your shadow side, your mystery side,
Yes,
the
yes,
unseen
yes,
side.
yes, she got it. That's exactly it. Yes. So if a witch is wanting to be safe, but maybe wants to go somewhere, you would send your fetch. You would
Right.
send, some people send their fetch when they're dream walking
I
or
was
when,
gonna say it's definitely, it seems like you could utilize your fetch in a dream state and dream working.
yeah. I guess you could kind of say soul. That's kind of similar. Your soul is your fetch. You kind of send it out and bring it back. But yeah, it's definitely connected a lot to, you'll find it a lot in British traditional and fairy traditions. You'll see them sometimes related to actual fae or fairies, sometimes the she, like banshees. But again, banshee is not you, it's just another spirit. So yeah, so there's that. I would love to have an episode where we talk a lot about fetches and thought forms and egregores and things like that. It's pretty interesting
Put it
magic.
on the calendar.
Right? All right. So, what's next?
Okay, so we have a listener, Kimberly. Hi, Kimberly.
Hey, Kimberly.
Kimberly wants to know what is the difference between fortune telling cards and tarot cards? When she was an early
Ooh.
learner in her practice, a fortune teller told her that she had only used the fortune telling cards, those the thin orange boxed ones, and that others tarot were different. And she wants to know why. Kimberly, have I got an answer for you? And so doesn't Layla.
I'm just going to say one short thing and then you give a
Go
good,
for it.
because
Go for it.
I had to look it up. I could only think of one fortune telling cards that came in an orange box, and I had to
Uh-huh.
look it up to check. But the only ones that I could find are the Gypsy Witch fortune telling
Well, that's
cards.
what I was thinking she was talking about, to be honest.
Okay,
I had the same visual in my head when I read it.
okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I'm going to assume that that's what it is. But if you know of a different fortune telling deck in an orange box, let me know. But go ahead, Shall give your answer.
So, that particular deck, the one that Layla just mentioned, that is kind of based on the system of the playing cards.
The Lenormand.
Right. And tarot is more, how do I say this? In-depth picture based. There's meaning in the pictures and the artwork and what have you that you find in tarot. Because again, 240 decks, it's an addiction, not an addiction. Different artwork, different artists are using their artistic vision to kind of portray the same meaning.
Yeah.
But I look at those gypsy fortune telling cards as like I can glean a lot from a picture and symbols and symbology, but when I have used those particular cards, it's kind of more going on for me anyway, and this could be totally different for other people, it could be totally different for Layla, but I kind of just go on I know what the Nine of Hearts means. I
Right.
know what the King of Spades means. And it's kind of going more on my intuition and knowledge, more so than gleaning from symbology and making patterns out of those symbols based on what card is next to what card is next to what card and putting those visuals together.
Right.
So, I mean, ultimately, yes, there's a difference, but it's a different means to the same end.
I'm going to have a two-part answer to this question. The first one is tarot cards, like Shell said, that's a 78 card, usually, deck that is rich in symbology. The Gypsy Witch fortune telling cards is a 55 card deck that's based on the Lenormand deck, which, like Shell, is very much like a deck of playing cards in this
Right.
particular case. The Gypsy Witch deck does have a lot of pictures on it, and it tends to be very literal. When I've used it's very blunt, very literal.
Layla, I could say the same thing about tarot cards, though.
Yes, but tarot cards you can very easily weave a story. There's so much information in each
Yep.
card. It's very super easy to weave a very detailed story and you can get caught up in all the details
Oh,
on
I see
tarot.
what you're saying, where this is more like A, B, C. There's no
Yeah.
path. This is this. We are just being blunt, moving
Yeah,
on.
in my experience, Lenormand in particular, this deck does seem to be very, very blunt. That's just the differences. There's a ton of them. Oracle cards, Lenormand cards, so many different ways to get to the same end.
It's not my preferred method just because I love that rich symbology and weaving that story. But ultimately, when you're talking about, doing a spread, it's kind of six of one, half a dozen of the other for me
Yeah.
personally.
And that particular reading saying that she liked a particular deck and did not like the other ones, or she said that the others tarot were different. She's correct. They are different. There's a different number of cards. They have slightly different meanings. It's just a different divination system using cards.
And it's not that one is better or worse than the other. It's just a personal preference.
Exactly.
Like the Lenomard, and this method is not my personal preference. I like strictly tarot. I don't even like oracles really. But Layla, you kind of flow with it all.
Yeah, I really love tarot. That's definitely my jam. I'm most comfortable with a tarot deck, but I do also love the oracles. I love adding them in together. I love adding multiple decks together. So yeah, I guess you could say I'm the rebel tarot reader. I
Oh
like
my
to put
God,
them
that's a
all
perfect
together.
description for you, Layla. We need a business card that says Layla, the Rebel Tarot Reader,
There you go. There's our next workshop show.
right?
All right, so this next question kind of flows with that one exactly. This question is from Angie, and Angie says, I really want to get into learning tarot, but I need a good deck to start with. Can you
Oh,
suggest a
girl,
good
we
deck?
got you. We got you.
What would you recommend, Shell?
Oh boy. So I do like Pamela Coleman Smith, Rider Waite Centennial deck. I do love that. And I do think it is a very basic deck. But if you are like rock solid brand new, maybe you just need the bright yellow Rider Waite deck.
Is there really a difference between those two decks? They're the exact same deck.
Yeah, but we have to have Pamela Coleman Smith be number one. Come on
I know.
now. This is what we're here for. We've talked about how I kind of tend towards the Celtic path. So Robin Wood, I think, is a good one. But though that symbology has to speak to her, it ain't gonna work.
Yeah.
It is personal preference, but something Rider Waite,
Yeah.
Smith, Coleman, something like the Robin Wood, the 1909 deck.
I hate to be simplistic, but anytime I've ever taught anyone tarot, I always tell them to grab a Rider-Waite Smith clone, a Smith-Waite deck that they like,
Yeah.
because there is so much information out there. Every book pretty much is geared toward a Smith-Waite deck. So find a Smith-Waite clone that has the imagery that you like, that resonates with you, and learn on that one because it's easy, because the information's there. It's everywhere. The second half of that is go to a shop, go online, and just look and find which one calls to you. Which one are you most interested in? Because that's the one that you're going to pick up and want to use every time.
I think the better advice for Angie is start with a Rider Waite Smith Coleman version, and then once you get a good feel for it, just start buying all kinds of decks until you find one you love.
Just buy them
Start a
all.
collection. Start a collection. I am pro tarot
Do not
collection.
spread your addiction.
I am spreading my
No,
addiction. It's an addiction.
resist.
Addiction.
You
No.
need to resist her.
Buy tarot. Buy tarot. Buy tarot.
Resist.
So, Angie, I hope we answered your question and good luck with your tarot
Good
adventures.
luck. All right. I got one last question, Shell.
Lay it on me.
This one is actually from our Reddit board, and I pulled it because I don't think this one's been answered in a couple days. I think people are scared, Shell.
Ooh, what scares people, Layla? Tell me, tell me, tell me.
This question says, I have a spirit board I have been unsuccessful in using alone. Now my mom wants to use it with me. I assume to talk to her dead mom. Any advice to make sure we stay safe / don't do anything stupid? I'd ask in another forum, but people from the internet are mostly mean, and I'm hopeful this community won't be. They say, I'm taking Florida water just in case, but any additional advice would be much appreciated. All
You
right.
know, Layla, why do spirit boards get such a bad rap?
Because of movies, honestly, it's movies. Okay, first of all, the first thing Shell and I are going to tell you people, spirit boards, Ouija boards, are just another divination tool.
You're fine,
You're
people. You're
good.
fine.
Now, the next thing I'm going to tell you is identify your own personal biases when it comes to the Ouija board,
Oh, I wouldn't have thought about that. Yeah.
because that's going to determine whether you have a good time or a bad time. Do
Right.
you feel like demons will come through the board? Write that down and talk about your mom. Talk about it first. Do you feel like spirits will be trapped? Do you feel like you could call spirits that you don't ask for? Do you have specific worries, fears, hopes? Write them all down and address them before you get out the Ouija board.
I mean, Layla and I have done some crazy things. We've taken a Ouija board to Gallows Hill. We've taken Ouija boards to cemeteries. It's all about your mindset going into it, like Layla said. If you have a preconceived notion, your mind is going to carry you down that path. Working with a Ouija board, a spirit board, a witch board is like working with tarot. If you're worried about the demons coming through the board, you should be worried about the demons coming through your tarot, I guess. You
Yeah, and
know?
address that. Make a plan to take care of that because your own personal fears can kind of make shit go
Yes.
weird.
Yes,
So
yes.
address it first.
But I think, the Florida water thing, obviously do the things that you would normally do. I keep my tarot wrapped it with crystals. Maybe you want to have some crystals on your board if that's your thing, or maybe you want to have some incense going while you're working with the board. Maybe you want to cast a circle and do it within a circle. Do whatever it is you normally do when you do divination, because that's ultimately what you're doing.
Yeah, treat it like divination. I would also say set your intentions ahead of time. Make it sacred. Make it sacred space. Set it up with the intention you are about to call your grandmother, your mother's mother. This is a line. This is a connection. This is your ancestor. Treat it like that.
Right,
Light the candles, cast the circle, not
right.
just to have a sacred container, but to make it a space out of space, a time out of time, that moment of liminal sacredness. Treat it that way. Bring her favorite perfume, her favorite food, play her favorite music. Whoever you are calling, set the space for that person because that's who you want to come in. Invite them in by setting the stage.
Great answer, Layla.
That's all I really recommend. Make sure you have something there to record what you're writing. Be open, ask questions, and just be ready for the answers to come through. Now, if you feel like you need to be safe, cast the circle first and say goodbye at the end, and then dismiss the energies. Say,
Right.
we close this circle by our will. This is done. Be serious, be solid, and then close it.
Yep.
Close the door. Physically slam a door if it makes you feel better and helps you actualize that in your magical brain. Slam the door and say, this is done, be gone. And that's fine. That's all you got to do.
There is a board that I occasionally use, and I like to keep it in a container. It happens to be like a cloth bag, and it's kind of almost like a ritual that when it goes in the bag, it's done and it's sealed. Just like when my tarot gets wrapped up in its silk, it's done for the day. You're done, go to bed now. Same
Exactly.
concept. So even if you use the box it came in for that same purpose, kind of have a pre-created space where it's like, okay, you're done now. You can go home and rest. We're done speaking here. You know what I mean?
I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah, it's good to have an ending ritual, just like you have a
Right, right,
beginning of your ritual. It's good to have a this is done and ended ritual.
right.
Then I recommend eat your food, have a drink, be real, be
Ground
physical,
yourself.
ground yourself, be in this world, and kind
Yep.
of make sure to disconnect. Maybe you could have a feast of your grandmother's favorite foods with your mom. Talk about your mom's favorite foods growing up. Have that connection with her afterwards, but ground in the here and now.
We hope we answered some good questions for you guys tonight. Layla and I love listener questions,
Me
and
too.
sometimes we don't always have the opportunity to respond to you back via email or direct message, but we do try to take the time and gather some up and answer them this way. So we hope we did the best we could for you folks.
Before we go, I do want to mention the last time we used a Ouija board.
We're so fuck around and find out.
At Central New York Pagan Pride, one of our listeners, hey
Hey,
Vix,
Vix.
came up to us, and one of the gifts that this lovely person gave us was an old Ouija board.
Some people would be freaked out about that, Layla.
We were thrilled.
I am so jealous that you are currently in possession of it physically that I could die. So, for people who are just like, oh my God, that's so scary, I'm jealous that you are the one in physical possession, but it was
I'm
fabulous.
excited about this because we decided to fuck around and find out. And we'll tell you all about this backstory of this nicely haunted Ouija board in our next episode because we took it to a very haunted cemetery that we've been to before that's not that far from my house.
So, we fucked around and we found out.
We did. We had some experiences. We did
Yep.
some pseudo professional, read not at all, ghost hunting. And your love actually
Was
ignored
freaked
every
out.
single piece of advice we gave him
He did.
and
And he
brought
made you
something
mad.
back to my house.
Well, yeah, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
So we will talk about our experience with a Ouija board that a listener gave us at a haunted cemetery in an upcoming episode. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all so much for sending in the questions. We do love answering them, and it's so nice to answer them in a forum like this where everyone can kind of gain all that knowledge from your wonderful questions.
So if you have something that, maybe you don't know, you're not clear on, you don't know what to do, where to turn, send us your questions and we will answer them as best we can. If not, throw them on the air and answer them live. So reach out to us. We love hearing from you.
Thank you guys so much, and welcome to the season of the witch. Until our next episode, be wise, be wicked,
And keep it witchy.